Wow, I can't wait to see what happens to Venser and Koth. I bet they save the day. Oh, hello. Pioneer is still a new format, young and untested since its creation in, what does that say, 2019? So next year it's gonna be half a decade old? Old. Oh my God, that's me. I am the old. I'm old and withered, and I still have my 2012 Burning Vengeance block constructed deck. I never even got around to making a tiny leaders deck. Life has passed me by. I've wasted everything.
We interrupt our program.
Since the inception of Pioneer in 2019, there's been one glaring hole in the format that many Magic the Gathering players have talked about time and time again. The mana bases for ally color decks, technically speaking, blow chunks. But that is all about to change, and fast, with the reprinting of the Scars of Mirrodin Fast Lands in Phyrexia. All will be one. These lands are called fast lands because the lands enter the battlefield untapped if they're one of the first 3 lands you play in a game. Fast lands are some of the best lands printed in the 21st century for 60-card constructed formats, behind only the fetch lands and the shock lands. Having your lands enter untapped and being able to tap for more than just one color of mana is vital to casting your spells on curve in multicolor decks. Not only that, but existing decks that couldn't quite get ahead now have an opportunity to lead the stampede in Pioneer, a format that is going to be changing fast, but not just because of the 5 fast lands. There's other powerful cards coming to Pioneer via Magic the Gathering's newest set, and here we're covering the top 5 for Pioneer, so buckle up. But first, have you ever considered the quality of your sleep, or if your mattress is right for you? Who asks you these questions? Well, no one, but Helix Sleep can help with answering. Helix Sleep, sponsor of this video, is a premium mattress and bedding service that delivers custom beds tailored to your sleep profile and wants to make your nights sleep better. I've been sleeping on a Helix mattress for a little over a year now, and I've got to say it's doing a great job. Never did I think the quality of my day can be improved with a little attention on how I spend my night. And looking back, this process for getting a new mattress couldn't be easier. Helix Mattress gets it right. My wife and I enjoy our different custom sides that were tailored to our preference with the help of the sleep quiz. The service is quick and efficient. Before you know it, you'll have a mattress on your front door and a better night's sleep in the bedroom. So give Helix a try. There is no reason not to, because if you're unsure of your decision or have any doubt, you'll get a 100-night sleep trial. And if it doesn't work out, Helix will pick it up for you, hassle-free. So if you're looking for a new bed, check out Helix. You can click the link below or go to helixsleep.com/Tolarian to get 20% off your Helix mattress plus 2 free pillows. Thank you, Helix Sleep, for sponsoring this video. So just how impactful will the 5 fast lands be in Pioneer? And what other cards from Phyrexia, all will be one, will make an impact in the format? Let's start with the former. Enemy color pairs have enjoyed the privilege of excellent mana in Pioneer thanks to the cycle of dual lands from Kaladesh, known as the fast lands. In a 2-player game, if you're going second and your opponent casts their spells on curve while you played a tap land on turn 1, you're going to have a really hard time catching back up. Competitive players call this situation going third, since your opponent essentially got to take 2 full turns before you ever cast a spell. The Kaladesh fast lands meant that 2-color aggro decks in Pioneer were significantly better off being enemy-colored rather than aggro-colored. While some decks, like Bant Humans and Spirits, were able to make do with Botanical Sanctum as their fast land, what those decks really wanted was the Azurius fast land. Well, they got it, and there's 4 more completing the cycle. With all 5 missing fast lands coming home to Pioneer, the impact these lands will have on the format cannot be overstated. Established ally-colored decks with assertive game plans like Rakdos Midrange, Gruul Vehicles, and Selesnya Angels are going to get even better. Fringe ally-colored decks that have been held back by the poor mana will finally have a chance to prove themselves. Decks like Dimir Phoenix, Selesnya Auras, Azurius and Soul Artifact. Oh, it's just a list of things I love and will now be seeing more of. Perhaps even new archetypes will emerge within the ally color pairs, archetypes that couldn't support the subpar replacements that the ally color pain lands offered. No doubt about it, Pioneer is about to look a lot different, but I'm only counting the fast lands as one of the top 5 new cards from 1 that will have a big impact on Pioneer. Let's talk about the other 4. Number 4 on our list is an artifact that's reminiscent of an enchantment on the Pioneer ban list, Mindsplice Apparatus. Mindsplice Apparatus is a 4-mana blue artifact with flash. At the beginning of your upkeep, put an oil counter on the apparatus. Instants and sorceries you cast cost 1 generic mana less for each oil counter on Mindsplice Apparatus. A 4-mana permanent that lets you cheat on mana? Sounds a lot like Wilderness Reclamation to me. Okay. Maybe comparing this card to Wilderness Reclamation is a bit of a stretch, but it is exciting to see Wizards of the Coast take another stab at a 4-mana enabler for flash decks after their last attempt turned out to be a lot too strong. And unlike with Wilderness Reclamation, where you had to take a bit of a risk by tapping out for it, opening yourself up to instant speed enchantment removal that would waste your whole turn, Mindsplice Apparatus is much less risky to get online. Hold up 4 mana on turn 4, and if your opponent doesn't cast anything on their turn that you need to interact with, flash in the apparatus to start accumulating oil like your Daniel Day-Lewis in There Will Be Blood.
I drink your milkshake! I drink it up!
Another difference between Apparatus and Wilderness Reclamation is that Reclamation rewarded you for playing expensive instants that you can cast in your own end step. Apparatus, on the other hand, allows you to play with instants and sorceries. You just want to make sure the expensive spells you're casting have a lot of generic mana in their costs, since Mindsplice Apparatus only reduces generic mana. Mindsplice Apparatus is an exciting build-around card, and part of the excitement is that there are a lot of ways to build around it. There are so many sweet instants and sorceries in Pioneer that cost too much mana to reasonably put in your deck. With Mindsplice Apparatus, you can take your pick of win con. Some previous versions of this type of card have a clause restricting you from using spells with X in their mana cost as their payoff. Apparatus has no such restriction. Expansion Explosion, Torment of Hailfire, heck, even Banefire could all work as win conditions. You can play Apparatus in a deck full of expensive Time Walks, or in tandem with a Magma Opus or Approach of the Second Sun. As you can see, you've got a ton of options for what you want to do once you've got your oil engine online. How you build the deck is up to you. That's the beauty of a card as open-ended as Mindsplice Apparatus. If I said I was an oil man, you'd have to agree. You know, the script called for a bad Daniel Day-Lewis impression, but I can only offer quality. Number 3 on the list is a sweet removal spell that rewards you for playing a lot of basic lands. Ossification is an aura enchantment with 1 generic and 1 white mana. Ossification can only enchant a basic land you control. When it enters the battlefield, exile target creature or planeswalker until Ossification leaves the battlefield. This is a very powerful card, but it suffers from a narrow range of the type of decks it can be played in. You need to reliably have access to a basic land in order to have hope of casting this card when you need it. To cast this reliably on turn 2, you need about 13 basics in your deck. If you don't mind waiting until later turns, you can get away with about 10 or 11, but the fewer you run, the riskier it gets. And of course, because this card is white, the basics have to be basic planes? That said, there are a few places where Ossification can certainly find a home. Mono White Humans is a deck that plays 12 to 13 planes and has been in the market for quite some time for a good sideboard removal spell that can replace Declaration in Stone. Mono White Midrange with Yorion is another deck with plenty of basic planes to enchant that would also appreciate the upgrade to its interaction suite. Then there's Azurius Control, a deck that has perhaps the least consensus consensus among the Pioneer community as to how it should be built. Many Azurius players have built their decks around the removal spell from Brothers' War, Lay Down Arms. Lay Down Arms is reminiscent of a sorcery speed swords to plowshares, if you have enough planes, that is. To support this powerful removal spell, Azurius decks have warped their mana so they can play 19 lands with the basic land type planes. That means full playsets of Hollowed Fountain and Irrigated Farmland, as well as Prairie Stream. It also means a whopping 11 basic lands in its 27 land mana base. Azurius Control might be the only heavy two-color deck that can reasonably support main deck Ossification. Between its 11 basic lands and its Field of Ruins that find your basic lands, the deck plays 13 ways to ensure your Ossification has targets. What's more, Azurius Control doesn't generally need to cast a card like Ossification as early as possible. Ossification is the kind of removal spell that Control players like to save for their opponent's strongest threats. Ideally, you're tapping 2 lands to cast Ossification on a turn when Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, is already in play. In that scenario, you might as well cast a 2-mana spell at sorcery speed, since you're about to untap 2 lands in your end step anyway. Ossification won't turn Pioneer on its head, but it is one of the strongest targeted removal spells White has seen since the format first started. Alright, so what are the 2 new cards from Phyrexia All Will Be One for Pioneer? Well, number 2 on our list is a reprint. Reprints! There's never enough Magic the Gathering reprints! That has a lot of players nostalgic for our last foray into new Phyrexia, and that card is Phyrexian Obliterator. Phyrexian Obliterator is a 5/5 Phyrexian horror for 4 black mana. Phyrexian Obliterator has trample, and whenever it's dealt damage, the controller of that damage source must sacrifice that many permanents. Phyrexian Obliterator is a powerful card that is an absolute nightmare to play against. Any deck that relies on red removal basically can't get this card off the board, at least not without taking heavy losses. Whether it's Is It Phoenix, Gruul Vehicles, or Mono Red. Cast this guy against any of those decks and your opponent will be staring at your creature, reading its ability, looking at their hand, reading it again, calling a judge to ask them a question away from the table, coming back, thinking, getting a slow play warning, then eventually losing to your terrifying monstrosity. Now, granted, Obliterator will be competing with the premier black 4-drop in the format, Sheoldred the Apocalypse, in order to see play, and the last black 4-drop to get into a competition with Sheoldred, Kalitas, didn't prove up to snuff. I think Obliterator will be different for 2 reasons. 1, Obliterator is not legendary. You can draw multiple Obliterators and cast them, no problem. Number 2, unlike Sheoldred, which sees play primarily in Rakdos midrange, Phyrexian Obliterator is best suited for a mono-black deck. Specifically, mono-black Devotion, where Obliterator's 4 black pips will power up your Nykthos activations to new heights. Mono-black Devotion was nothing more than a fringe player in the format before this set. I think we could soon see the deck back in full force, generating a ton of mana off Nykthos and casting big payoffs like Invoke Despair and Grey Merchant of Asphodel. In that deck, Obliterator is a house, serving as both an enabler and a terrifying threat in its own right. Red decks beware, a nightmare is waiting for you. But more so than the 5 fast lands, more so than anything else we've mentioned here, is a legacy-like new card about to put this format on blast. If you thought the Mother of Machines was a mommy to fear, you weren't paying attention, though our number 1 pick is indeed in white. And now, the number 1 card that will change Pioneer forever, Skrelv Defector Mite. Skrelv Defector Mite is a 1-mana, 1/1 white legendary artifact Phyrexian Mite creature. Phew! Say that 10 times fast. Skrelv Defector Mite is a 1-mana, 1/1 white legendary artifact Phyrexian Mite creature. Skrelv Defector Mite is a 1-mana, 1/1 white legendary artifact Phyrexian Mite creature. Skrelv Deflector Mite Skrelv has Toxic 1 and cannot block. It can also activate by tapping itself and paying a white Phyrexian mana to give another creature you control Toxic 1, hexproof from a color, and make it so that creature can't be blocked by creatures of that color this turn. Now, I also talked about Skrelv in my Modern Top 5 video, but many of the ways this card is relevant to Pioneer is different than the ways it's relevant in Modern. For one, there's no Giver of Runes in Pioneer, which means Skrelv stands alone as the only Mother of Runes type card in the format. For another, whereas Skrelv's application in Modern is limited to 2 or 3 decks, in Pioneer the sky is the limit for this little legendary mite. In white, it's an artifact. It's legendary, it's 1 mana. It provides a kind of repeatable protection that was previously unavailable in Pioneer. White aggro decks like mono-white humans and Selesnya angels will appreciate a cheap way to repeatedly protect their most important creatures. Boros heroic players will love curving Skrelv into their Illuminator Virtuoso. Azurius Soul is certainly in the market for an artifact that can protect its ensouled artifacts. Heck, even a multicolored Legends deck could crop up soon that plays Skrelv alongside the various powerful legends that have been added to Pioneer recently, like Gwenna, Eyes of Gaia, Thalia, Guardian of Thraben, Joda the Unifier, and many, many more. It's not just the protection from removal either. Granting a creature unblockable from a color of your choice is very strong in a format like Pioneer, where board stalls are common and a lot of creature decks primarily only play 1 color. As a 1-mana creature that is good in both interactive matchups and in creature matchups, Skrelv is going to find no shortage of homes among white-based Pioneer decks. And thanks to the completed Fastlands cycle improving Pioneer mana bases, it'll be easy for any aggressive Pioneer deck that wants to play white to simply play white. And there you have it, the top 5, or I guess 9, cards that will make a difference in Pioneer, but there are a lot more where that came from. Phyrexia All Will Be One is chock full of exciting and powerful new cards for new and exciting Pioneer strategies alike. So what card are you most excited to grab for your Pioneer deck? Are there any cards in 1 that you want to build a new deck around? Let me know in the comments below. Hey, thanks again to Helix Sleep. If you're looking for a better quality of sleep, look no further than checking out Helix Sleep, a mattress delivery service that ships custom mattresses right to your door. Get 20% off your order when you use my link, or just go to helixsleep.com/Tolarian, and you'll also receive 2 free pillows. Thank you, Helix Sleep, for sponsoring this video.
Next time on Shuffle Up and Play.
Today on Shuffle Up and Play, we have each designed a commander deck for one of our friends here at the table.
I decided to build a deck that I think that she would really like. Maria, Scholar of Antiquity.
Prof, I will give you the option to be intimidating.
For my friend, Gavin Verhey.
100 cards, everyone is a secret lair.
Gavin.
You're supposed to design for Kidler.
New secret lair alert!
Maybe Magic the Gathering players ask the question.
Is this what I'm like?
Yes.
Oh, God.
What is this? I just have to do it. It's too good. I cannot do it. I'm going to attack Olivia with Olivia.
For Lodestone Golem.
Why did I put that in there then? Commander Rules Committee plays stacks.
How many Pro Tours did you win, Brian Kidler?
2.
And how many of those were Commander?
All of them.
Yes. Okay. I drink your milkshake.